The opening scene begins with Ben's narration about the Wayward Pines. He claims that man's destruction of the environment has resulted in evolutionary aberrations known as abbeys that rule the earth. One man foresaw the catastrophe coming, so he built an ark for mankind, selecting a select few to sleep for 2,000 years and defy extinction. Some were there by choice, but most of them were taken against their will. 3 years after Ben's father's death, the town is ruled by the first generation. They ascended to power and continued to rule with an iron fist. According to Ben, he didn't want to live in such a world, so he vowed to do something about it, not just for himself and the people of Wayward Pines, but for the entire human race. In the next scene, we are introduced to a doctor named Theo Yedline, who is on vacation in Hawaii with his wife named Rebecca. He invites his wife to join him for a drink, but she declines. As a result, he ventures out to a bar by himself. In the bar, Dr. Yedlin is approached by Sheriff Pope, who is apparently hunting for more chosen people to chloroform and forcefully send them into the future. In the midst of the conversation, Sheriff Pope makes him drink a lot. After a brief conversation, Dr. Yedline is sent to the hibernation chamber where he falls asleep. After 2,000 years, Dr. Yedline wakes up disoriented in Wayward Pines like Ethan from the first season. But, unlike Ethan, who awoke in the woods, Dr. Yedline wakes up in David's old domicile. Upon waking up, he finds a young taciturn lady named Carrie in front of him, who greets him coldly and asks him to accompany her to the hospital for some emergency medical work. Following this, he is escorted in an SUV filled with guards, but on the way, he jumps off the vehicles and runs away. He finds himself in the middle of a war zone filled with explosions, bullets on the ground, and bloody walls. He then walks into a random house and asks for a cell phone so that he can call the cops. However, he is shocked to learn how normally the family reacts to explosions and gunshots. Seeing him confused, the family members try to calm him down, but Dr. Yedline walks out. A short while later, Dr. Yedline is located by security guards and is taken to the hospital. Upon reaching there, Jason greets Dr. Yedline and informs him about Wayward Pines, claiming that it is a secret government study and that all the residents are all volunteers. It is revealed that it is the year 4032, and the students of Wayward Pines Academy, led by the paranoid Jason, rule the town. These young people believe they are carrying on the work of their late leader David. Following this, Jason sends Dr. Yedline inside the operation theater to save the life of none other than Kate, who appears to have been shot. Befuddled, Dr. Yedline suits up to operate on her, surrounded by interning physicians. All the interns appear to be too young to perform the surgery. Following the surgery, he is resting in the doctor's ward when he is reminded of his wife, who, unlike him, desired to have a baby. He thinks his little getaway might patch things up, but she's about ready to chunk the deuce and call the marriage a wrap. As a result, they had a heated argument that day, but now Dr. Yedline seems to be missing his wife, so he takes out his wedding ring and wears it again. After a while, Carrie walks in and informs him that Kate has regained consciousness. On his way to Kate, Dr. Yedline notices Ethan's assistant, Arlene, receiving shock treatment in one of the hospital's desolate rooms, which makes him even more suspicious of the place. After this, he introduces himself to Kate, who addresses him as Group C and asks about what he has been told about the town. Dr. Yedline responds that he has been told about the secret government study. Hearing this, Kate realizes that he is still far away from what is actually going on in the town. But before she could reveal the truth about Wayward Pines, Carrie arrives and informs her that his wife will arrive shortly. Dr. Yedline's suspicion increases further when he notices that Kate is handcuffed in the bed. On the other hand, we see Ben and a few other members of his group hiding inside a van. They are planning to change the Wayward Pines and halt the reckoning, finishing the work left by Ben's father. Meanwhile, Dr. Yedline is walking towards his hotel room when he notices some guards forcibly taking away a child's mother, who happens to be Ruby. Later, Dr. Yedline notices a crowd forming, and upon walking towards it, he discovers that Jason has apprehended 3 insurgents. Jason announces on the loudspeaker, threatening to execute all of them if Ben and his rebellion do not surrender. In the van, Ben and his rebellion are listening to Jason. Following this, Jason executes Ruby, and when Dr. Yedline sees this, he rushes forward to stop it, but he is apprehended by the guards. As Jason prepares to perform a second execution, Ben and the other insurgents come out from the shadows, and Jason takes them in custody. There, Dr. Yedline reunites with his wife and whispers in her ear to go back because it's not a safe place. However, Rebecca decides to stay with him. Later, Jason whisks Dr. Yedline away, claiming he'll explain everything at his mountain home. Jason then places him in the same truck as Ben and Ben's friend, Xander, but instead of taking them to the mountains, the guard drives them to the fence. Before opening the gate, The guard knocks Dr. Yedline out, places a rock on the gas pedal, and flees as the truck hits a tree on the other side of the fence. After some time, Dr. Yedline regains consciousness and discovers a swarm of Abbeys running into the fence and being zapped one by one. Then, Xander and Bill manage to get off the vehicle and run into the woods. Back in the hospital, Megan visits Kate in her wheelchair to inform her that the rebellion has ended because her team members have been arrested. Megan also advises her to consider starting it again, but Kate doesn't want to be a part of it any longer, so she slits her own throat, dripping blood all over Megan. On the other hand, the Abbeys deliberately pile up dead, zap bodies by the wall in the hopes of making it over the top. The students, Rebecca as well as Jason, notice this on a CCTV monitor, so Jason and the guards rush to the fence. Upon arriving there, they start firing on the Abbeys, but despite this, one of them manages to jump over the fence and slash up Jason's girlfriend, Carrie, causing her to bleed heavily. Following this, Jason rushes her to the hospital, where he learns that there are no experienced doctors available to perform the surgery. Left with no other choice, Jason orders his soldiers to locate Dr. Yedline and bring him back. As per the instructions, the soldier brings Dr. Yedline back, but he demands the truth before operating on Carrie. Jason then gives him the whole horrible truth all in one swoop, and Dr. Yedline doesn't believe him at all. However, Rebecca is there to tell him to perform his duty and save the girl, to which he agrees. In the evening, Dr. Yedline wonders how Rebecca is acting as if she has accepted her life in Wayward Pine. She then reveals that she has been living in Wayward Pines for 3 years, which astounds him. Despite the fact that she is an architect, Rebecca appears to be Wayward Pines' resident beautician. He inquires as to why she changed her profession despite her pure dedication for it, to which she responds that she has to do the job that she has been assigned in order to survive in Wayward Pines. After this, she advises her husband to get back to healing people, especially since all of the rationing has resulted in malnourished children. Dr. Yedline, the town's reluctant doctor, notices how Jason is turning Wayward Pines into a dictatorship. Later, Dr. Yedline approaches Jason and declares that he will not be staying under anyone's dictatorship. This makes Jason furious because he dislikes being lectured. Following this, he goes to Carrie and expresses his regret for bringing Dr. Yedline to Wayward Pines. Hearing this, she responds that if they didn't have Dr. Yedline, she would not have survived. Furthermore, Carrie reassures Jason that Yeldon is an important person of their grand plan and tells him to let Dr. Yedline be. She also tells him to focus on harvesting food that is located beyond the fence because the children in the Wayward Pines are already malnourished. In the next scene, we see an elderly man named C.J. Mitchum, who appears to be in charge of the food crops. Under his leadership, the troops head out of the fence with flamethrowers. As soon as they are attacked by Abbeys, the troops use flamethrowers to burn them. The Abbeys appear to be uncomfortable with the fire, and as a result, they retreat, allowing the harvesters to do their job. During this, they come across Ben, who asks them to take him back to the other side of the fence, but they don't listen. Following this, Ben stands in front of the CCTV camera and delivers messages to her mother. He also reminds Jason of the first rule, which states that first-generation kids should not harm another first-generation kid, and that anyone who does so will be sentenced to life in prison. Later, Teresa, who has been looking for her son, approaches the soldiers and reminds them of the same first rule, pleading with them to do something for her boy. But none of them are willing to go against Jason's order. Instead, she is driven back to her house and locked up inside. On the other hand, Carrie tries to convince Jason to let Ben enter the town, reminding him of the same rule. However, Jason believes that Ben turned against them and he will not let him ruin his plans any longer. Sadly, the Abbeys capture poor Ben, jumping him in the cornfields. The Abbeys appear to be evolving to the point where they may be plotting ways to get inside Wayward Pines. At the headquarters, Jason is unable to find any Abbeys on the security cameras, making him believe that the Abbeys are gone. Jason shares with his girlfriend about it, which surprises her as well. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and hit that like button to help our channel grow. Turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our new videos.